We're hearing that Prince Harry has invited the King and Prince William to go to the Invictus Games. It's 2027, so we're 2 years away. That puts everyone in a little bit of a dilemma, because if he invites them to the games in Birmingham, normally at these games the head of state or the defence secretary will go to Harry's games. What do you think the King and William will be thinking about?
Well, has he actually invited them, or has he just said he would like them to come? It is 2 years away, and there are those who say, well, William and the King can always come up with diary engagements, and there are those cynics who say, well, it is 2 years away, adjust your diary. There's got to be a lot to happen between now and then. You can't just brush everything under the carpet. The Oprah interview, the 6 hours of Netflix slagging off the royal family, the book Spare. You can't just sweep that under the carpet. There's got to be an apology. Yes, the King is sort of Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Services, and it would be a good fit and a good show for him to appear. But it's a very difficult one. He's being placed in a dilemma as to how to cope with this. I think we have to wait and see how this moves on as to whether there is an apology. Life can change in 2 years. You know, a day in politics is a long time. 2 years in the royal family is even longer. So let's just see what happens on that front.
May I ask you, one of the parts of the story, this was in the Mail on Sunday, I think, the other day, one of the parts of the story was that emphasis on getting in early with the invitation because the royal diary can fill up years in advance. How true is that in this scenario where let's say that the invitations have been sent out, is it possible that they would already be booked for, I think it's July 2027? The King, for example, would he be booked already, do you think?
Firstly, I doubt the invitations have already gone out. I think Harry has sort of indicated and sort of flagged up that he would like his dad and his brother there. He's got to clear a lot of bad air to get them there because William really doesn't want to have anything to do with him. A parent is slightly different. You know, he loves his son, but he's very hurt by what his son has done. And there doesn't seem to be any move of rapprochement. He says, yeah, he wants to see his father. He made that silly comment a few weeks ago that he doesn't know how long his father has got. I mean, you don't say things like that in public. So he's got a lot of ground to make up. And the ground is with a capital A, apology. And you've got to mean it. But at the moment, his father won't see him because his father sees him, that anything he says will be all over the airways, all over the internet in a nanosecond. And at the moment, he can't trust him.
But you were famously sorting out these kind of issues when you were working for Her Majesty.
We didn't have issues like that.
But you had to negotiate what would look good, what would look bad, how to kind of present things. This would cause a massive headache to you if you were in your position.
It would cause a massive headache because you just don't roll over having been rubbished for such a long time over a wide platform. You know, Netflix has got millions of listeners. Harry Spare book sold millions. Oprah has 1 million viewers. To rubbish the royal family to that extent and then expect everybody to roll over and say, oh, you know, kiss and make up. You know, all is forgiven. There's an equation to this, and the other half of the equation is Mrs. Wales, Mrs. Sussex.
I think this is such a difficult one. I've given this one a lot of thought since the story came out, and also since we found out that it was going to be in Birmingham. I think there is a lot of sympathy and understanding and respect for the King's position and William's, because I think anyone can relate to the fact that if you'd been spoken about, particularly publicly, and had your personal issues with family members aired in that way, of course you would be angry, and of course you would be well within your rights to do exactly as they have done, which is basically shut it down and cut him off because there's no trust. With that said, it's a tricky one because this is beyond Harry. Of course it's his event, but it's in the UK and you're talking about the military community, of which the royals are very, very, very entwined, and it is bigger than Harry. So that you do run the risk, and I say this again with great respect to the family issues because I understand their position, but you are speaking about something that is bigger, and they do run the risk of it looking, for want of a better word, a little bit petty if they don't go and support it, given their position in supporting the military community, and it's particularly an event like this, which is a very good event that is held. It is a wonderful thing that is put on and means so much to that community. So I think it is particularly complicated, but I think that that's something that is going to be discussed a lot in the palace.
You're absolutely right. There's got to be a lot of give and take on this one, and it would be a bad fit if there was no representation from the king, because he is commander-in-chief. And these servicemen, ex-servicemen, they signed up the Queen's shilling, and today it's the King's shilling to serve. So it would be a very difficult one. They're faced with a dilemma, and somebody's got to come out with a resolution. Somehow it's got to work that there is a presence of the King. I don't think there needs to be a presence of William, but certainly of the King as commander-in-chief, their commander-in-chief, because they're still military-minded, and it would be right for him to be there. How it's done remains to be seen. It is 2 years away. A lot can happen in 2 years.
And we thought that it had all died down because it did appear that Harry and Meghan, but particularly Harry in this instance, wasn't going to talk anymore about the family. And then we obviously had that very unexpected and explosive BBC interview. So as you say, that's a crucial point. If there's any more of that over the next 2 years, and 2 years is a long time, it is much harder for there to be any more push forward. But maybe if nothing else happens for 2 years and the water's calm,
come on, that's not going to happen.
I don't know, maybe.
They're in a pickle, but there is possibly a way out. No members of the royal family went to the 10th anniversary at St Paul's Cathedral last year. Harry came. We were led to believe that kind of invites or offers, would a member of the royal family like to come? They didn't. They said they were busy. They didn't meet Harry when he was over. And it's also Camilla's birthday. I think right in the middle of when the Invictus Games is, so they do have that kind of excuse.
Yes, you can throw all sorts of things into the melting pot as to why it can't happen. But this is a very difficult and sensitive one, because it's not just about the relationship of the king with his son, with his younger son. It's also his relationship with servicemen, injured servicemen, veterans, and dare I say, he has to be seen to be believed. So he's faced with a very difficult dilemma. But 2 years is a long time. A lot can happen.
I know. We'll be talking about it again, I'm sure. We'll be talking about it again. Now, Dickie, should we be surprised that Meghan Markle has joined a whole long list of celebrities by bringing out a rosé wine?
I don't think we should be surprised at anything she does. And as far as bringing out a wine, it's going to sell something for something like 20 quid or $28 US. It's a lot of money. And if you're going to go into that sort of business, you've got to produce a lot of wine to make money. If her jam is anything to go by, it's going to be sold out in about 10 minutes. How many bottles is she producing? Who's producing it? She's not a wine expert. So, why go into something that you probably know nothing about?
That's a really interesting point. I mean, we'll get onto this in a little bit later about how her products have they actually sold out and how many, wines and jams she's actually making. But I'm not surprised that she's gone into winemaking, because if you are a celebrity like Meghan Markle is now, that's what everybody's doing.
Well, it's very appealing to celebrities to do it, because if it's produced en masse, exactly as you've mentioned, you can make a lot of money out of it. George Clooney sold his, I think, Casamigos tequila one, I think, for $1 billion.
Yeah, but she's not George Clooney.
Of course, and that's going to be the problem. People will note that. So, look, I can understand why she's gone in there. It certainly fits with everything else she's putting out there. But we've touched on the key element, which is until these things are produced in very, very large quantities, it's not going to make the kind of money that really makes it worthwhile.